RenderForest.com.
Hi all, I'm Trisha Peach, host of the Peach Buzz, and this is kind of a personal one this week, I suppose. We all make mistakes in life, we're all human, and we all make mistakes in ministry, yours truly included. I was thinking about if I could go back in time and not make certain mistakes, what would I tell myself? If I were talking to a children's pastor today and I would want them to not make the mistakes that I made in the past, what would I do? And that's the big thing, is not avoiding all mistakes, but learning from them and not continuing to make the same mistakes over and over and over. And I hope I've done some of that. I hope so. I would say the first mistake that I made was engaging in arguments and drama with people, being kind of yanked around by that when I should have stayed above that. There are people that are seriously addicted to drama, and they seem to be drawn to churches. You know what I mean? Some of you, a face popped in your mind even when I said that. There are people that just love the drama, and they also really love controlling people in authority, including pastors. So if they can get you upset, if they can get you angry, if they can get you to cry, if they can, kind of move you, they get something from that, and they will continue to do it. I wish if I could go back and tell my younger self, I would say, don't get sucked into all of that. Don't get upset. Don't lose sleep over it. Let it go. Let them be them, and you focus on the ministry that you need to do. Kind of like Nehemiah, when they tried to suck him into all these different traps, and he would say, I cannot come down to you. I have a great work to finish for God. I would lose sleep over this. I'd be so upset because I wanted everyone to be pleased, and that's just not realistic. It can't work that way. You're not going to make everybody happy. You're probably not going to make 50% of the people happy. I wish I had learned that when I started. Sorry, lots of cars driving by. The second thing that I wish I could change, if I could go back and change things, would be I would pay more attention to my health. I don't know, if I thought it was more virtuous to be, sick all the time and work constantly. I was definitely a workaholic. I put so much time and effort into work, and I thought that was maybe more spiritual. I worked so hard and I was sick constantly. That was not a good idea, and I hope I've learned a little bit more of a balance, or maybe at least seasons. If you'd asked me back then, I would have said, no, I put my family first. I put my relationship with Jesus first, but I was working so much that I was sick all the time. And I think if I could go back and do it all over, I would really put the emphasis on health, and I would put the emphasis on my family and my kids. I also would look more at mental health. I would look more at depression, anxiety. I did not really think about those things at the time, and I think I should have. I wish that I had. Let's see. So, mistakes that I made that I wish I could go back and undo. I think one would be that I stayed too long in a place that was unhealthy. A lot of times I just didn't want to give up. I was so stubborn. And I would think it'll get fixed, or it'll change, or it'll be different. And I would just hang on and hang on. I'm thinking of Corrie ten Boom, who wrote The Hiding Place. She said that you shouldn't hang on to anything in this life so strongly that God has to pry your fingers to get you to let go. And there were times God had to pry my fingers because I just wouldn't let go. and I would stay in an unhealthy situation. And I'm not advocating jumping from place to place to place. That's not good either. You shouldn't have short tenures in every single church that you are a part of. However, sometimes you can stay too long. And I did that at times, just, I don't know, thinking things would just change. And when you overstay, that can be bad too, for your health, for the church as a whole. It's just not a good thing. Number 4, if I could go back and talk to myself about mistakes that I would not want to make again, one would be who I talked to and who I trusted. Now, I know you're thinking I'm going to say, oh, she's going to say not to be a gossip. Well, it's not quite that. That's not the point. No, you shouldn't be a gossip. But I wish that I had found someone to talk to that I could bare my soul to that wasn't a part of all of it. I think I trusted just everybody and never thought ill. And I'm not saying you should think ill of people. I'm thinking every pastor needs to have someone to talk to that's not a part of the church, that they can bare their whole soul to, that you know won't be a part of the whole matrix of what's going on. I wish that I had made friends outside of the church that I could talk to, even a therapist, something like that, that I could talk to, which leads me into number 5. I wish that I had had a lot more structure outside of the church. Some of you know what this means, okay? Whatever church you're at, that's your support system. That's, where the people from the church are, where you get your oil changes, your haircuts. They're your best friends. They're like family. That was me. Everything was in whatever church I was on staff at. Problem being, when then I would switch churches, you lose everything. You lose a group that was like your friends, your family, your confidants, everything. Everything then shifts when you have to change churches. I wish that I had had a network outside of the church that I had been a part of, because also you get used to that bubble. And I realized one day, I thought, wow, I haven't even had contact with someone who's not a Christian in months, because my entire life was in that bubble. We're talking 60, 70, 80 hours a week, all in that bubble, to people who are already Christians. And for somebody that has kind of an evangelist heart, that was tough for me. I thought, I really need to have outreach outside of this bubble. I don't know if you guys can understand that, but that's where I was at, thinking I got myself into this bubble where everything revolves around this system. So then when you change systems, that can be just overwhelming. Things that I wish that I would have done differently, that I wish that I would have changed to cause less hurt along the way, less pain. I would say number 6, I wish that I would have listened more when God was saying no. Kind of just like when God was saying no, get out of that certain unhealthy situation. I didn't listen sometimes when God was saying don't go to that particular staff position, or don't do that, because I just, you're young, you think I can do whatever. I wish that I had listened more to my instincts. Now, looking back in my 40s, I can say, wow, my instincts sometimes were right on. The Holy Spirit was trying to tell me, no, this is not a healthy situation, and I would just march ahead thinking I can handle anything, I'll just take it. And of course, that never works out well. I wish that I had listened to that. And part of that, I had heard from so many people that if you take any time off between churches, you won't get hired for the next one. That was not true at all. Especially with children's pastors, we're quite in demand. You can usually go from one and to the other. I just jumped sometimes from the fire into the frying pan. If you know what I mean by that, I wish that I had listened more to what the Spirit was saying, even to take a few months off and think and pray before jumping ahead. That was not me. I would just charge ahead, it was my plus in ministry and my minus. Boldness, let's go, let's take the hill. But I wish that I had listened sometimes when God said no and he slammed a door. I'd sit there still knocking on it when I should have just accepted that and moved on and realized even taking 2-3 months off was not a failure. That was actually the right thing to do. I think somebody watching this needs to hear that. Sometimes taking a few months off is the best thing you can do. Even a year off, it's not the end of your ministry at all, and sometimes it's the smartest thing you can do. If you don't feel right about taking that position, don't do it. Trust me, from someone who has done that before, don't do it. Something I would tell my younger self would be, it's okay to do a small job on the side to support the work of the ministry. I was always all in, 60, 70, 80 hours a week, even to the detriment of my health, which a couple years ago I started substitute teaching or teaching online, that kind of thing, to supplement my traveling ministry. And I'm so happy I did. And I mean, Paul did that, tent making. I wish I had just said earlier, I am going to supplement ministry if I have to, and that is not a failure. That is something very, very important. I know I'm giving you guys a lot here. Another thing I wished I had done was have a network of other professionals in kids ministry and just ministry in general outside of my church. And you say, well, you just said that. No, what I meant was I wish I'd had a network of people outside the church for my everyday things. Like, I even got my oil changes and haircuts and all of that within the church. Everything was about the church. My whole life was about the church. I was there every time it was open. When I left that and I began traveling ministry, traveling and teaching from my books, I realized that I didn't have a lot of professional contacts in kids ministry outside of my own church because I had no time. I literally had no time to do anything but what I was doing in ministry. I needed not just a new network for my local, where I lived, like haircuts and dentists and things like that. I needed a whole new network of friends, of kids ministers from all over the country. Texas and North Carolina and all over the country. I had to develop an online presence because, believe it or not, here I was working at a church of 3,000. I had been doing children's ministry for 17 years and had very little online presence because my entire life was in the four walls of that church. I don't know if anybody can relate to what I'm saying. My entire life, my existence was 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, what was going on in our bubble. And I needed to have a life that included other kids pastors. So I needed to get on kids pastors groups on Facebook. I needed to go to conferences and connect with other children's pastors. I needed to connect with other children's pastors in my group, literally from all over the world. I wish I had done that really early on. My entire focus was that church and what was going on there. and I missed out on that, and it took a while to build that after I started traveling and teaching online. So these are just a few things that if I could go back, I would tell myself, hey, chill, Trish, calm down. You have time. You need to stop destroying your body. You need to not make the church your whole entire life. You need to really make your marriage and your kids your number one. You need to have a network here in town and a network globally that you're a part of. Trish, you need to stop getting drawn into drama and losing sleep over all of this. If I could go back, that's what I would tell myself. So I'm curious for you, if you could go back, what would you tell your younger self? What mistakes did you make that you wish you could go back and undo? I'm honestly curious. What do you wish you could do differently? I hope you know this week that you are loved. Thank you for what you do for Jesus and his kids. You are not a failure. You are not alone. You are not a failure for taking some time off to seek the Lord, to seek God right now. You do not deserve verbal abuse. You do not deserve parents piling on you or other staff. You deserve to enjoy your life. You deserve to have happiness and health. That's not against being a good Christian. So I want you to know I love you. I'm praying for you this week. If there's a certain way that I can pray for you, please comment down below. And I will see you next week on the Peach Buzz. Be blessed. Have a fantastic day. God bless.